Yo, what is up folks, TripCG here with Hardened Scales and Explorer and Pioneer, featuring the new Agatha's Soul Cauldron from Wilds of Eldraine. So this is a new card, but Hardened Scales has been around a little bit. You know, it's not a super popular archetype in the format. Part of that's because Walking Ballista is banned, and for very, very good reason. However, Hardened Scales itself, green enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control, that many +1 +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. You give something counters, it gets an extra counter. Something answers with counters, it gets an extra counter. That's kind of like the core idea. We then also have Ozolith. Ozolith is very much the same thing. It's a legendary artifact and a little bit more expensive, but also has the ability to put counters on things itself. So Hardened Scales doesn't actually put any counters on anything, like just stand alone, but Ozolith has the ability every turn to start putting counters on stuff. Nice. It does have cycling, so having multiple legendary copies isn't too much of an issue. If you've got a bunch of mana, Ozolith is a better Hardened Scales, but obviously can't stack multiples. Counter multiple Hardened Scales. Nice. Alright. So Cauldron is the new card. The legendary artifact, again, here I actually have 3 in the list, but if you were to play this yourself, I'd recommend playing 2. I've included 3 just for the purpose of this. I'm going to play some ranked games and want to actually be able to draw it more often to test with it. But 2 is probably the best number. We have quite a few shenanigans we can do, but not dumping cards in the graveyard to use it. What it does, though, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any colour to activate abilities of creatures you control. Not really doing that here. We're playing mono green, or largely even mono artifacts. But creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And then additionally, tap, exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. We're putting counters on a bunch of our creatures, ideally all of our creatures, and so we'll be able to activate abilities of creature cards that work with it. So what abilities are they? Steel Overseer. One of the massive incentives to play like an artifact-based version of the Hardened Scales deck anyway. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. Now, if you have one of these exiled under Cauldron, all of a sudden all of your creatures can tap to put a counter on all your other creatures. Pretty powerful, especially with any of the Hardened Scales, Ozolith style, like counter doubling. There are a few other tricks. So Steel Overseer is probably the most powerful thing we can do. Just tons of counters everywhere. We also have Hangback Walker up here. Hangback Walker really, really strong by itself anyway. Obviously, playing into the counters theme. XX, enters the battlefield X counters. When it dies, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature for each counter on it. And the activated ability here, 1 tap, put a counter on Hangback Walker. So, sure. If we have Hangback Walker exiled under Agatha's Soul Cauldron, all of our creatures will be able to pay a mana and buff them. Not bad. Not like super powerful. Obviously, like Steel Overseer is like the really, really big thing. And then Hangback Walker is just a really good card in the Scales deck. We're going to put a bunch of counters on it. We're going to either get a bunch of Thopters or hit your opponent for a bunch of damage. Really, really solid. Again, rest in peace Walking Ballista. Unfortunately, is not legal and would be absolutely broken. But there we are, especially with Soul's Cauldron. In fact, if you've not seen it yet, the modern version of the Scales deck is wild at the moment. So something to check out there. But that's not all. We have one other little trick with Soul Cauldron, and this is maybe the most potent, kind of like innocuous one, as actually super powerful. Gingerbrute has this ability on it. 1 mana to activate. Gingerbrute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. Evasion for your entire team, whether that be like Patrick Automaton, things you've buffed up with Steel Overseer, everything. Really, really powerful. And so Agatha's Soul Cauldron distributes counters by exiling cards from graveyards, which also, incidentally, gives you some graveyard hate for things like Greasefang, which is pretty funny. But then that also lets you just like go and like pop off with Overseer, give your team unblockable with Gingerbrute, or hey, grow your team with Hangback Walker. Those are the synergies you're playing into. The rest of the deck then. Ornithopter, 0 mana artifact, is an amazing place to put counters on, because obviously it's got flying. And then also a 0 mana artifact, which is really nice with Patrick Automaton. Our other 1 mana kind of creatures that we're playing, Gingerbrute, has that evasion ability. Also has haste, pretty nice. Again, another great target alongside Ornithopter as an evasive attacker. And then Iron Apprentice, which is like a bit of a underwhelming choice in a way, but artifact on theme. And then these counters, obviously, you stack counters on this. When it dies, if it had any counters, you can put those on a different creature. Sweet. And again, like one of the things that gets used here is that when you've got a Hardened Scales or an Authors in play, you're giving that many counters, +1 or +2 or whatever. Pretty good, pretty good. Just a nice 1-drop that fits into the artifacts theme, which then can get buffed up by Steel Overseer, triggers Patrick Automaton, all that kind of stuff. Okay, nice. Obviously, we have our 4 copies of Hardened Scales, 4 copies of Ozolith, 3 copies of Cauldron here. As I mentioned before, I would, if you're going to play this, play 2 copies. I'm playing a 3rd one just to test with it, so I can showcase it in the video. And you can maybe either use this slot here on an additional copy of Kadama, the 4th Simian Simulacrum, or potentially an interactive spell. It's a bit of a flex slot. Then we have 4 copies of Patrick Automaton. This is one of the cards that really, again, is a massive reason to play the artifact version of the deck. 2 mana for a 1/1, has Ward 2, so some protection against itself, but whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Patrick Automaton. So playing a bunch of artifacts, some of them are also free, synergize as well some more sideboard cards, which we'll get to. Grows really big, and we also have ways to give this trample, which is super nice, or evasion with Gingerbrute and Agatha Soul Cauldron. Cool. Steel Overseer is the other massive incentive to play the artifact version of the deck. Just amazing card. We're here with like, okay, normally it's a little bit slow where you're like 2 mana for a 1/1, taps to put a counter on each artifact you control. If you're getting tapped for the ability, great. The trick here is that if your opponent kills it, it's sending your graveyard for you to exile with the Cauldron, and all of a sudden you have this ability on all your creatures, which is incredible. And that's kind of like the really awesome synergy you're playing. Then at 3, Simian Simulacrum is a nice one. 3 mana for a 2/1, enter the battlefield, puts 2 counters on target creature you control. Nice way to buff up either the Ornithopter or the Gingerbrute, or you can put the counter on itself as a 4/3, or if you've got Hardened Scales or Ozolith, more than that. The other thing is that it comes back from the graveyard with Unearth, which makes it a really nice tool versus control decks and things like Rakdos. Unearth, bring it out of the graveyard, again get to put those counters onto something, and then swing in for some damage. And lastly, our other creature, we've already talked about Hangback Walker a little bit. Banana of the West Tree, the only real like non-artifact creature in the deck, but it is super powerful. 2 and a green for a 3/3 with reach. Okay, fair enough. Modified creatures you control have trample, and this allows all your other creatures, once they have counters on them, to have trample. Not only that, whenever a modified creature you control does combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. And so we have a bunch of forests here as well. A bit of incentive to play mono green, but to be honest, we're going largely artifacts. There are a couple of tools, there are a couple of other ways to build the Scales deck going green-white, but I think the artifact build here is really good, and the green mana base is just really consistent. 4 copies of Hand Walker at the top, and then the mana base. So, 1 Boseiju, pretty free, gives you some interaction. 13 forests, 2 copies of Hashipa Oasis. This is a way to kind of push extra damage through to kind of get the last little bits of chip damage in, either buffing up either an Ornithopter or a Gingerbrute. Again, mono green, monocolor mana base. This is very free. 2 copies of Lair of the Hydra. Manlands versus control decks, just a nice way to sink your mana if you get flooded as well. And lastly, 2 copies of Dranith Ruins, which is a bit of a bit tech, something kind of unique to this deck. Is a colorless land, but later on in the game, 2 tap, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target non-human creatures that enter the battlefield this turn. Obviously, not a ton of our humans in our constructs in Golem deck. Later on in the game, once you have some lands in play, normally like this Ornithopter or the Iron Apprentice, not that great a top deck, and Dranith Ruins just powers them up and lets you still have like good value cards off the top, even when you're drawing things like these smaller 1-drops. Pretty great. And again, yeah, versus like control matchups where you think the game's going to go long, just provides you consistent value over the course of the game. We're going to play some best of 3 ranked games of the deck. As such, we're going to go through the sideboard. Some interesting pieces here. So 3 copies of Shaper Sanctuary, playing a green creature deck and Explorer, versus things like Rakdos, any mid-range deck where they're just trying to kill your creatures. This is an excellent tool. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell or ability your opponent controls, you may draw a card. Draws you towards more scale effects, draws you towards more creatures. Awesome. 2 copies of Tailswipe. This is our kind of creature interaction. It's a fight spell, which is quite nice with Hangback Walker because you can often cash it in for some Thopters. But additionally, hey, if you cast it on your turn, +1/+1. Alright, just the most efficient thing we can play in green removal-wise. 1 copy of Back to Nature. This is a bit of a sledgehammer versus things like Auras, Enigmatic Incarnation, that kind of thing. You could play more of them if you wanted to, but I was like, I'm playing a mono green deck. There's not like tons and tons of amazing sideboard options, and so having like a sledgehammer for some specific matchups isn't too bad. I kind of like having one here. Heroic Intervention. This is versus like Control, Survive Rats, and that kind of thing. Permanents you control gain Hexproof and Indestructible at the end of turn. Awesome. Then versus Graveyard decks, we have 3 copies of Tormod Script. Getting a bit of a bonus here. We aren't playing Scavenging Use, which admittedly does get counters, but is quite slow and can often get outpaced by things like Greasefang. Tormod Script here, we can play it for free, which is great, but then also combines really well with Patrick Automaton. It's a free way to get extra counters and triggers on it. Awesome. Similarly, kind of playing into the artifact theme, for artifacts and enchantments, we have Haywire Might, which is also an artifact creature, which can then get buffed up by Steel Overseer, trigger our other stuff. And then also, fun one, with Agatha Soul Cauldron, you can exile from your graveyard, and all your artifact creatures have the ability here to sacrifice and exile non-creature artifacts and enchantments. Pretty cool. The last things here are versus control as well, and these are 2 copies of Ranger class. If you were to build a non-artifact, kind of like more traditional creatures deck, trying to go into Hardened Scales, Ranger's class is one of my auto-includes here. But here we're playing it largely for the level 3 ability. It's really good anyway, so 2 mana, you get a 2/2 wolf. The first time you level it up, it gets this. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature ability, which gives you a static way to just kind of sit in play and then build up counters. Sits in play over time, gaining value. But then the 4 mana ability in the games that go long, you can look at the top card of your library at any time, and then you can cast creature spells from the top of your library, which is an amazing source of card advantage. I'm choosing for this over Vivian just because it gets you some value early, whereas Vivian generally, if you're playing like Llanowar Wells and Mana Accelerants, Vivian's 5 mana, not too bad to get here. Here we can play Ranger class out early, and you can get the value and invest in it when you need it. Really, really solid. So, let's hop into some best of 3 ranked games. If you're not already, please do subscribe to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, let's go. Alright, first ranked game of Scales. Going to be on the play. Nice. Double Scales in the opening hand. We will go ahead and keep this. We'll probably sequence to play the Steel Overseer last. So likely go Hardened Scales into Hardened Scales plus Apprentice. We'll see what our opponent appears to be on. No companion, but hey. Let's see. Gonna avoid taking damage off the mana as well, but hey, we should be all good there. Feels a bit silly if you're having to take damage off your mana base in a mono-color deck, but hey. I think it's worth it for the Ashby Oasis and that stuff. Just gives you some extra pressure, and your opponent kind of has to like remember it's there and deal with it as well. Be like, oh yeah, there's an extra amount of damage coming out of nowhere. And then I'm really interested to see how these Janus runes actually do. I think that it is free enough in this deck, as are like only 2 colorless lands, and then can provide some obviously real value once you've got like Scales and play and stuff. Green-white land. Razorback Thicket maybe makes you think Angels. Either way, I don't think that changes what I want to do here. I'm going to go Scales and make the Apprentice. Yeah. We'll do this, and then we can start beating down. One of the things I didn't talk about with Hangman Walker, actually, is that when you have a Cauldron in play, you could actually just drop this through the floor to get it enabled. And then start being able to put counters around. And it's also another way you can, like, for free, trigger... Oh, actually it was Greasefang. Okay. That is a Parhelion, so we are staring down the barrel of getting turn 3'd. I don't think we have, like, a way to really play around that. What's our best bet? I make Oasis. We're playing one of these either way. Case of like, we're going to play it before combat, I guess. If they don't have the combo, Steel Overseer is better long term. Hangback Walker is better if they decide to trade. It's really tempting to try and get the Steel Overseer active as fast as possible, but I think that I want to be able to attack, and so making the Hangback Walker makes more sense. Yeah. Let's see. The Greasefang deck won't have any ways to exile. If they just decide to say no blocks here, take the damage. Of course, like if we get turn 3, we kind of get turn 3. That's going to happen sometimes. Is maybe a shout out to being like, hey, maybe I like the toolbox scripts on the board. Like one of them could maybe be a Cauldron. Cauldron number 3/4, depending on how many you're playing. I definitely don't think 3 Cauldrons. Sorry, I definitely don't think you should play 4 Cauldrons in your main deck, just because drawing multiples is horrendous. And also, there are points where it's like not really doing much. It's almost at its best when your opponent's like killing your turn 2 Steel Overseer, which is a funny place to be. Alright, so. Do they have a Greasefang? Has a tap to Grim Team, so just no. Okay, we just go double Overseer here. I think I'm just going to attack with both of these. Yeah. Trade with Hangback Walker, Apprentice. We get a bunch of 1/1s. We now have some blockers to stop us dying to playing stuff. But then also we're going to go double Steel Overseer, and all of a sudden we're going to have a bunch of really big flyers. The Grisly Salvage, not with the Bloom Command. What do we hit? That's a Sky Sovereign. They've got Attack and Numa back to hand. No Greasefang here. Yeah, we'll make a second one. Alright, so if we get to untap, we get to put 6 +1/+1 counters on each of these. Nice. That's what we want to see. They do have a Greasefang. Big sad. How do you want to do this? They're going to have 2 blockers. They only have 2 blockers. I think we have a lethal attack. Move really close, isn't it? I guess we can do the math on our side, because we might draw something relevant. Like, also might just have to... So... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, that makes these into 7s. Yeah, what am I thinking? And then this is lethal. Nice. I was like counting 6 as their power and not including the one they already have. Sweet. Alright, we got a nice little... We got away with the one there. I want the Tormod's Crypts. I want the Haywire Might, so that's probably it. I'm not going to board into a bunch of interaction. We could maybe bring in Tailswipe, but I think it's a little greedy. I'm thinking about how many cards we want to cut. Some things we can trim around the edges. A copy of Ozolith. I'm not going to cut Soul's Cauldron just because we are testing it here, but it's a card that you could consider trimming down on. No, it's not a card you can consider trimming down on. It's Graveyard Hate. Sorry, I'm dumb. I'm going to cut the Kadamas. I'm going to cut these similar Akims. They're really needed here for control decks. I think this is fine. And then it's a case of, do we want to have all these tail swipes in? If we are doing our thing with Hardened Scales, then we're going to have tail swipe online to be able to fight their stuff. If we are falling behind a bit, we will not. And so what I'm leaning towards is cutting a couple of Hangback Orcas, because while there they looked okay, normally they shouldn't be letting us get flying blockers anyway. They shouldn't be like trading with the Hangback Orca really. If we have a way to get rid of it, that's, I guess, their problem. It does synergize. Like, if you get to live the dream and you have a Haywire Might in play, a Haywire Might exiled under a Cauldron, and then have a Hangback Orc and you get to sacrifice it, then sure. But then, hey, like, you're in a fantasy land anyway. Alright, I'm happy enough following up by this, yeah. Cool. Opponent on the play. We have double scales again, plus a Haywire Might. We don't have anything to do with the scales yet, but I think we keep this. It's hard to ship any hand when you've got multiple scale effects, to be honest. That's scale effects and land is normally good enough for me. Hey. Deck has been performing pretty well for me so far. Attacking him with Thoughtseize? Okay. You know, you just take the Haywire Might. Little do they know we're going to exile it later. But fair enough. We got Gingerbrute. I'm just going to get it into play. We don't have a way to protect it from removal. We want to start doing damage. We've got the Hardened Scales to play next turn. If they Thoughtseize one of them, I think that's kind of fine. I probably did also mulligan. Green, white, nothing. Okay, cool. And so then we also have... go forest for now. This has been an interesting one. So I'm going to keep this Ornithopter in hand. One, to not reveal it. But then the main thing here is that if we draw Patrick Automaton, we can play this to trigger it straight away. Or alternatively, we can play it next turn and then pump it with a Drannith Ruins. Which is another nice little synergy. Okay. Did they hit perfect with... Okay. If one of the cards in hand is a Greasefang, sure. We're in a bit of trouble. You gotta play Buster Chariot draw. Yeah, okay. Alright. We can outmuscle the Chariot draw, but it does buy them a ton of time. It is fairly painful for us to try and like keep activating Gingerbrute through this stuff while deploying more things to the board. So we'll see. So far they've got some cats. Lair isn't fantastic. We will do the thing I suggested before. So Drannith Ruins, I'm gonna play Ornithopter and we're gonna activate here. Which, hey, does make it a 4/4, which is cool. And then obviously, no attacks to Gingerbrute. I have to pass. Informant does get to dump the chariot back in the graveyard, unfortunately. Is a pain. Oh, that's not a chariot, that's Bahalian. Okay. We're not just dead. It's kind of close. But, yeah, they can't crew the Informant, which is important, which is good. They're going to attack with everything. So if we block an Angel, we take 9, 15, go to 1. The Gingerbread we can block and cash in for food later. Let's just double check the math on that. 9, 15. This isn't it. Get an Angel away. Okay. Obviously, the Ornithopter could block the Valhalion, but that does leave with them with more stuff on the board. Tough one. Tough one. Tough one. Ozlith probably too late. You can block a sacrifice here, gain 3 life up to 4. We are absolutely. Alright, fair enough. Let's go game 3. Tough, that's tough. Yeah, the Greasefang does that. Don't change anything about how I boarded. I'm pretty happy with all this stuff. The only thing I'm not like super happy with is that the tail swipes aren't super efficient, but it does give us a like you have to kind of take any crumb you can get to interact with Greasefang. I think that's pretty reasonable. Yeah, we'll go ahead and keep this. Sorry, we'll go ahead and stick like this. We do get to be on the play game 3 because we won game 1, which should hopefully help us out a little bit. Ornithopter, Ginger Bruce. I'm going to keep this on the back of the 2 Steel Overseers. There's definitely space for this to go wrong. There is. So you draw a scale effect, then like things go great. If they have like Thoughtseize or Steel Overseer into Fatal Push or Steel Overseer, we're looking a little silly. Would like to draw like, well, obviously a scale effect is always good, but Patch Automaton would be decent. And to that end, we're not going to play these Ornithopters on turn 1. We'll play them on turn 2. Looks like opponent did mulligan. Alright. Lead on lair, make a Gingerbrute. Come across the table for 1. Alright. Courtyard. Thoughtseize. Take a Steel Overseer. That's kind of how we drew it up. I'm just playing my hand out here. Yeah. Ooh, Steel Overseer does get Witherbeam commanded, which is rough. We'll see. They just won't have it, obviously. The best way to play Magic. We can't play around it if they do, to be fair. Okay, awesome. They don't know about the forest, I actually don't really want to play it out. Apprentice. Activate. Alright. They could still have the perfect flip-flop the Greasefang draw. Do some game. Vigorously salvage into... So Sky Sovereign is pretty good against us. But not like the end or be all. They didn't hit Greasefang, they didn't hit Bahalion. All we can really ask for. And we've got some damage on board. Yeah, I'm going to sandbag this land. I don't think we'll be activating the Lair of the Hydra for 1. I will play it next time, I think. Be in the market to maybe activate like a Sheep Oasis, something like that. So if they bring Sky Sovereign back, I assume they're going to just like, kill the Steel Overseer and then the Gingerbrute. But, hey. We're getting to tap again with it, which is great. Love that for us. Loads of pretty amazing draws as well. Okay, Parhelion in the bin. We are at 20, so hey. Okay, Traverse, we'll go and get a Greasefang. Misery. You can also draw a piece of graveyard hit. That'd be neat. Wouldn't mind that either. Alright. Did in fact draw Forest. So they can Parhelion next turn. Is this like a lied moment? I think so. Oh, this doesn't actually buff us at all. I can just block Lair of the Hydra, but they take more damage. Kind of the bait here. They kind of sacrifice to the debris. They're on 4. So again, Greasefang Parhelion leaves them with 2 blockers. They should know this isn't good enough, actually. We have them dead on board. Then after Parhelion. They can get Sky Sovereign, that destroys 2 creatures, but still leaves us with 4 damage minimum. And doesn't leave them with a blocker. Do they have a Chariot? They do not have a Chariot. I'm not going to go game them, because I might be dumb and mess maths up, but I'm pretty sure they are dead on board. We do be going to 7, but... See, I forgot they hadn't played a land yet. Yeah. Alright. Sweet. We'll take that. I will see you in the next match. Alright, nice little win there versus Greasefang. That was sneaky. It always feels like you got away with one when you win versus Greasefang for some reason. Ooh. From last game, a completely different kind of angle here. Do get to be on the play again, which is awesome. We have the Iron Apprentice, we have Spire, and then we have double Patrick Automaton, which is changing things up a little bit. Opponent has mulliganed. I think it'll be a sequence here, whether we want to save the Spire or just play it out there. I'm gonna make the Apprentice. Feels kind of silly not to just play the 1-drop. But hey, here we are. Bit of a nombo that when you play Patrick Automaton and then play, I'm going to get the Drannith Runes to play now. Fancy Swamp here. You'd think, oh yeah, I get the counter, but no. Sometimes you don't. Fair. We'll Automaton up. Maybe could have played this pre-combat, but they'd have just pushed a response. I think that's... Okay, actually appears to be black-red, which is reasonable. We have 2 options. We can either play the Spire out, play the Automaton out, or... And I think the best thing to do is play the Automaton, and then next turn go Spire into Hagerback Walker. And then we start growing the Walker. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll probably hold on to Beseiju, just in case we see Fable. I always feel... It never feels good to Beseiju Fable, but letting them kind of loot away stuff is a good way to lose the game as well. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do this end turn. Yeah, what I was saying before about the Nombo is that when you cast Ozolith, obviously this is a cast trigger, so you don't get the bonus counters, which is a big sad. We'll go ahead and do this. Make sure you click the cast half and not the cycle half. That's a good tip. And then we will go and do 1. And all of a sudden, these are huge. Not only that, we then have a Hammer Walker in play. This is really hard for the Black Red deck to deal with. There's not loads of great ways to exile it. And so normally you're getting a bunch of thoughts off the back of it. If we get to untap, we will almost certainly try and also the counters here. But, hey, we'll see. And yeah, it's going to be conceding game 1. Nice, really strong start from us, but not even that fast. And we have some nice sideboard cards. So, I want to bring in 3 copies of Shape of Sanctuary. Not interested in Tail Swipe, not interested in most of this stuff. Heroic Intervention is an interesting one. Versus control decks like Blue-White, I like bringing it in versus Rats. Versus with Rakdos, you don't really want to like hold the mana up at all. And so, I'm going to leave it out. And then, because you're just going to end up deploying mana. Like, versus like Blue-White, you're like, alright, I'm going to build a board and then try and make them answer it before I have to do anything. Whereas Rat Dust, you can like build a board and they have a Shieldred and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I need to put more stuff in play. And so, yeah, here we are. Another thing to think about is maybe like a Haywire or two. From our side, so Simulacrum's pretty good here. Kadama pushing damage through isn't actually all that relevant. The other things to think about, like cutting an Ozolith, is interesting, but they have like Thoughtseize and that kind of thing. It's a tough one. Like the Iron Apprentice, some of the lower impact cards. Like, maybe I should cut some of these. I don't think I am gonna bring in the Haywire Might. Just looking at the numbers we have. Trimming Ozolith to be a little less clunky seems reasonable. And then, cutting some number of our 1-drops would be decent. Apprentice gets us some counters across. I'm going to keep some Ginger Brutes in, but I'm going to cut a couple of them. Yeah. It helps when your opponent's like things that block Ginger Brute also kill it. With like Harvester and Bronchus Giant. And then, like, yeah, I'm gonna trim one of these. If you end up with, like, it's fine to draw multiple over the course of the game, because, like, hey, they might Thoughtseize one, you can cycle it away later in the game, but having multiple in your opening hand is almost doomed sometimes versus Rakdos, and so we'll do this. Taking with 3 copies of the Cauldron, because they're removing our creatures, it means there's actually going to be quite a lot of stuff for us to eat, and then more value to be gained with it later on in the game. This is a 1-lander with Shaper Sanctuary, which is very tempting, but we should not keep it. It does help that we have double Ozolith, so it's kind of like a mulligan already. Feels bad to mulligan one and then keep a 7 card hand with 2 of them. And this seems pretty reasonable. I'll keep this. I think I bottomed the Ornithopter to make sure we've got enough land. We have Overseer with it though. We'll bottom a forest, and we'll get to Simulacrum eventually. Thoughtseize. Be able to tell quite a lot from this. While Steel Overseer is really powerful, it's also very easy to deal with. Like, Fatal Push gets it, Stomp gets it, anything in between. The thing that's actually surprising, they didn't take us a Hangback Walker, because Hangback Walker is almost always going to get us some kind of value. We will go ahead and Iron Apprentice, and I'll hold the Ornithopter for a turn. On turn 2 I'll play it, because then we can look to pick out of the Simulacrum, but, hey. See, and they've gone land pass, which is interesting. I think I'm just going to blind attack here. Fatal Push, fair enough. Yeah, we kind of lose the counters. We have the land. We'll use the mana. We'll play out the Ornithopter. There's only 2 cards left, but then we have Forest into Simulacrum. Simulacrum can put counters on the Ornithopter if they, for whatever reason, answer the Hangback Walker. Like, Hangback Walker here, they might have an answer, like another Fatal Push, but it will make some counters. It will make some tokens, sorry. You know? They're stuck on 2 land. Oh. I think they have like 1 piece of removal. I'm gonna hold on to Simulacrum despite them knowing about it. On a castle still Overseer. I'm just gonna pass the turn. And hold up the activation here. If they have like Path of Peril, this is pretty tough. While they're tapped out, I'll activate this. They can't interrupt it. And yeah, Stomp on Steel Overseer, totally fine. If they go tap out for Bronchus Giant now to like put a blocker in play, we can just slam some lacquer and put the counters on the... They're not going to do it. Okay, fair enough. We are going to make some lacquer. I'll put counters on the Ornithopter. Split things up a bit. They're using Removal here, not the Hangback Walker. That is fine. We'll attack with this. We're kind of just going to kind of nickel and dime them out a little bit. Oh, Giant plus land is pretty good. Oh, that's perfect. Not only the Ginger Brute, but additionally a Janeth Ruins to put counters on it straight away. No reason to offer up the Hangback Walker, but making these attacks where, sure, you can eat the Simulacrum, but then it's going to come out of the graveyard, put some counters on something else. No blocks. Oh, maybe they have something really good then. Maybe they have something pretty busted to combat us with. Yeah, Fable's pretty busted, but not the thing I was worried about. Okay. I'll activate the ginger brute. Yeah. And turn. There's an interesting thing here where if they kill a Hangerback Walker, we can put some counters on. We can, well, firstly, try and put tokens on it, but then also buff the creature that comes to play off of it. We may have some kind of strange route to lethal here. I'm gonna kind of take the bait here because we want to activate this on their end step anyway. I am gonna go ahead and block and then activate. And the trick here is that they don't have a removal spell in response. That's good. So what do they want 5 mana for? This is even. This is odd. Interesting. Picking even. That is a clean way to answer it. I think leaving the Simulacrum Graveyard maybe is the play here. Not use the wrong half. Make sure we actually have activated this. Now we are in like a... Alright, they've dealt with most of our stuff. Even though it was like 1 for 1, like the Hangerback Walker getting exiled is pretty rough. So if they have removal for the Ginger Brute, we're obviously in a lot of trouble. But they also may not have removal for the Ginger Brute. Given that the 2-1 isn't doing anything, we're just going to try and activate this. Alright, tough, but not absolutely the end of the world. Granathoons might keep us alive here. They're at 1, to be fair, so Hangerback Walker is basically lethal by itself. Oh, a Braid there is pretty tough. Okay. And they have an active reflection. Sure. So now, Steel Overseer. They have another removal spell. Counters here, please. Okay, that's it. Yeah, we do have some answers. Tasty things. Looks like they may be doing a removal spell. We're gonna no blocks tick out of 16. Alright. Yeah, we still currently have a Simulacrum. Okay. There's some interesting options here. I'm gonna play this for 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. I guess this is slightly better. Yeah. It works out slightly cheaper mana wise. Do they have a way to exile it? Okay. I did it this way around because the 2 counters are more likely to save it from like a removal spell than the 1 counter is. Sure, they got a creature here, but we're also Oh my gosh. Oh, Extinction Event. That's tough. The backup one. Alright, we go to 12. Can't actually force a block here for... Yeah, we're facing down a lethal attack. We kind of make them do something. Feels pretty tough. Basically, unless we do this now, they can make a token on end step, untap, make another token, and all of a sudden, da. We're still absolutely wasting the simulacrum here, but at least we're not dying this turn. It's still pretty close actually. They can hit us for 11 with the manland. Trespasser, fair enough. We still okay. No, now they're on 2. We were in rough shape. I think that is no lethal top decks left. Yeah, no. Alright. Game 3. That's tough. Double extinction event to get rid of both our hagabacks is awkward. Pretty happy with how I sideboarded. I want to work in these... You know what, like having the ginger... it's a weird one where like that game you almost want to cut ginger brutes. It's like, get them back in the deck. I think the actual thing to do is to have the cards we cut be Iron Apprentice. It's actually the lowest impact, and actually we're adding in a bunch of 1-drops to the Haywire Mites anyway. So... I like all these cards. I will be honest. Alright. We'll leave it at 2 Haywire Mites. I think this is for like 10 0/1 mana creatures to play. That sounds right. Alright, we get to be able to play. Awesome. Okay, great. Turn 1 Scales on the play is something that I can't interact with, whereas Ozolith being an artifact is a bit easier to interact with. They have mulligans. We don't have a great way other than the Ozolith itself to put counters in places, but I think that's fine. You have like Simulacrum we're building to. And so because of that, I'm not going to play, again, not play the Automaton turn 1, just in case we draw the Automaton turn 2. I think we do this. Feels weird. Maybe they push the Ornithopter. So now we're being like, okay, next turn we can put the counter on the Ornithopter and start doing things. We do have quite a lot of durdling going on. I mean, you want to stick as many of these effects as possible, so I'm going to wait a turn, basically, here. No attacks. Blackley Cliffs. A Braid on the Ozolith. Okay, well that's the most threatening one, but we also have a backup copy. Aha, joke's on you. No blocks here, they can buff this if they want to. Yeah, they're going to put mana into it, so no later push or anything. I probably did Mulligan, and we really want to try and take advantage of that. Again, we have the Spire now, but now we've also got Ranger's Class. Ranger's Class also does the other stuff. This is a way to, again, enchantments they can't interact with, and also leveling up gives us a way to distribute counters around. We will go in for 1 and pass the turn back. Curious as to what they're going to have coming out the rest of the pass. Okay. We level this up. Attack the Ornithopter. Put some cows on it. Do a quick removal test. Oh, it's out the creatures, obviously this can still pump itself. But from what we know so far, they've not had any removal. Alright, Lair isn't the land we're looking for, but it's not bad. At this point, we can now play the new Ozolith. Go to combat. This can now become a 6/6, which is annoying. We're getting 4 counters on one of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. These attacks. Put the counters here. Allow the trade, basically, but then that'll clear the way for Might and the other. Maybe they try and do the math on if they abrade Ozolith and then also. No, because if they abrade, they just use other creature. Or be already up to this game. Might get away with one here. Yeah. Alright, alright. Harvester, 3 mana left. Get land away. Hit. So Simulacrum, and we can hold Walker. I'm gonna put counters on the Haywire Might. And then on attack I'll put counters on the Simulacrum. Oh no, it doesn't face this side. We're putting a lot of pressure on. Go ahead. Stable. Realizing we've not seen Soul Golden yet, and I put an extra copy of it in the deck, so I feel a little hard done by. We go to combat. Check for the other real spell. Fair enough. Alright. Well, 2-0. I mean, if nothing else, the Hardened Scales was really, really good. We've just not really seen the Cauldron yet, which feels pretty bad because we're like 30 minutes into the video. Well, next game. Alright, last match here. Currently 2-0, but haven't actually really played with Cauldron yet. Despite playing effectively an extra copy of it. Go ahead and keep this. Land heavy, but Hardened Scales into Patrick Automaton plus Ornithopter is very... It's a very good draw. As you can kind of look at it, say, do you like a spell, but that's a bit dishonest. Yeah, no Cauldron yet, but you can see spots where it can be like really, really good. And like, it's a weird one. It's almost at its best versus something like Rakdos because your cards are going to graveyard pretty often. Again, no Ornithopter here because we can play it after the Automaton, immediately get the trigger here, and then be able to go and do stuff. It does appear like black red again. Oh, that's brutal because that's going to take the that's going to grab the Automaton. I do that. All right. Apprentice, Ornithopter. That gives us something to put counters onto. Alright. I don't actually know whether this is like control like last time or if it's sacrifice. But hey. 50-50. They're just gonna pass. May as well attack with both creatures here. Just in case they kill the Iron Apprentice before combat. Okay. And we'll play the Automaton. Can't push that yet. Aha, joke's on you. Let's see then. So you can play land and then immediately remove this. That'd be fine. Not a favourite, but hey. This is maybe the best draw we could have had. It triggers the Automaton, but then also... So this is going to make this a 3-3, which is pretty big. No, it's a mean to Midrange already. It's like, you're going to take a position now, or you can let me try and put counter somewhere. They've got March. How many? Exile cards are policies. Okay. Even though this spreads the counters around, I think we'd probably put them on the top to. Just in case they have a way to exile. Alright, down to 13. We'll say go. They know we've got a Besagi. It's fine, it's whatever. The Fable. Okay. Yep, sure. Few options. We could block the Fable. I think that's probably pretty good. Yep. Oh, I should maybe mid it. I don't know why I keep doing that. We should attack all the creatures. I trade. I'm gonna put the counters on the Simulacrum, not the only top two. It just feels a little weird. And I'm gonna go ahead and Besagi this. I don't want them looting cards. I'll say it. I don't want them being able to loot a bunch of cards away. You can keep the crappy ones that you have in your hand. Got it in AK-40. Anyway. We give them a nice land. It feels bad. They don't have a Fable. That's fine. We are preventing lethal damage, I guess, which is the other upside. Thinking about it, March is actually kind of an interesting card to see. So they need to... that's pretty good. We'll go counters on this one, he thought to... Force a block here, put them down to 2, I'd imagine. And it looks like lethal one of a few ways. I hope. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, it does seem to be Rattle's control again, which, hey, it's one of the best decks of the format. Can't complain about having to play it another time on video, because it's like, hey, this deck can compete. It's really good. Again, kind of want to find space to this, but... I'm take the Kadamas out. Gonna cut one of the Ozoliths. Gonna cut all these Iron Apprentices. I think, actually... No, okay. I think that's the way. This is what we've established. It's going to be a little less clunky. Our second match opponent had a bunch of braids. I don't know if that'll be the same here or not. Though together they could have the same name. I've not double checked. I'm really bad at looking at like opponents' usernames and stuff. For all I know, it could be. Okay, finally a Cauldron game. Pray, I hope. Hopefully we get to play with it. We might. It also might just get forces on. Take a Hardened Scales. Come on, please take a Hardened Scales. Oh, there's peak new card syndrome. I'm gonna play this on 1, dump 2 Hardened Scales on 2, and then try and play this on Lacrim on 3. That's currently the plan. And we use some untap mana. I'm gonna play Hardened Scales. I'll attack because I'll get Bone Gianted. Then we'll kind of get on with our lives. Stomp. Okay. Fair enough. And we're getting another Hardened Scales. Alright, we're pretty well set up. Like, we've got a handful of cards, we've got double Hardened Scales in play. The Simulacrum by itself isn't going to do it, but hopefully some combination of other things. Ah. That is tilting to see. Doesn't make some Simulacrum. We're just gonna like, alright, cool. We'll have a big threat. And then we want to use a room as well on here and not on the Steel Overseer we're gonna play in a minute. Let's see. Foreign Crusher. Please just main phase activate that. I think what order I want to do these in. Let's play Hail My out first. Oh, if they have Colligan's command, that'd be rough. Units here seems fine. I don't actually want to sacrifice the Hail Might unless they try and remove it. Just a fun one. As things are, like if it's just Reckoner Bagbuster, they want to spend money on drawing cards. While we have the Steel Overseer, I'm like, hey, artifact creatures, we'll keep it in play. You got a new Stomp, just drops. Fair enough. Alright. Now we also have a Steel Overseer in our graveyard. For when we get to what should we call it? When we finally draw a Cauldron. Automaton I kinda wanna leave in hand. Present a bunch of damage here. Oh, the counters. Attacks. Simulacrum's getting X out anyway. We've got a 5/5 Hero Might. Okay, nice. They get an 8. They have another giant, they've got 2 cards in hand, and they also have the Reckoner Bank. We are like, you know, in for a bit of a rough time of it. Fatal Push. A little annoying. Alright, 1 mana open. They're not going to attack. This is embarrassing a little bit. I think we just cast the black. I'll be honest. It is at least like getting reasonable 2-ish for 1 value. Sitting here with the Automaton in hand feels bad because I could draw something to take it, but I will see. Alright, well, that one can't draw any more cards. Bizarre. The other one can. Blood Crypt, 2 cards remaining. With a Manland as well. Let's attack with this first. Maybe I'm not meant to attack with it. Okay, sure. The Cauldron does so much stuff. It's a bit of a wild one. They're sacrificing for black mana. Oh, they're gonna Fatal Push the big guy. Interesting. How we... not sure. I was just thinking, let's see what they have. Let's see what they have. 3 cards, 4 cards of the Reckoner Backbuster. It's so much. So from our perspective, we can get some kind of unblockable thing. We can get Steel Overseer. Both of these cards will be pretty good. Will be pretty good. They're crewing up. If the card is Fatal Push, they already have Fatal Push. If it's damage based removal, it's the same number. It's almost the same number of counters. It's graveyards. Try and exile. Let's be coy and exile Gingerbrute for now. I will block the giant. Do they have nothing? Harvester. They have 4 mana left. 3 mana left. Is that card a Fatal Push? We just counter here. activate with Ginger Brute. That's game. We got to see Cauldron win! Yeah! Alright, I'll see the post game. Alright, well, 3-0 with Cauldron Scales. We did not see the Cauldron very often, but when we saw it, it was incredible, as you saw there in the third match. We just, like, you showcased how much shenanigans we could do. Our opponent died because we could give it, like, haste, we could give it unblockable with Ginger Brute, but we had so many other options. Like, we could have gone and started putting loads of counters on if we didn't have lethal, like, hey. They thought seized it, we finally drew another one, We got to do our thing. Cauldron's really, really good in the deck, but I want to say with a grain of salt here, because versus like Rakdos, versus matchups where your opponent is actually having like removal, the Cauldron is at its best in a kind of weird way. But in like your standard draw, like if you're still overseer dies, it gets really, really good. Hangback Walker, this kind of stuff. It being graveyard hate to itself, but you're not doing an amazing job of enabling it yourself. You can drop like Hangback Walker through the floor, but there's no like, hey. If you're just getting to do your scale stuff with like Steel Overseer, etc., you're probably going to win the game that way. And if they have interaction, Soul's Cauldron is a really, really good way to grind the game out. Just accrue a lot of value. So I'm really, really happy with the shell. We didn't see good armor either. Tell you it's really, really good. Giving your creatures trample is kind of a no-brainer, and all the lands you get to pull just means one, well, you're getting flooded, but in like a good way, where you're thinning your deck out a ton. And yeah, there you go. Or getting lethal damage in with trample attacks. Pretty good, pretty good. Iron Apprentice was like the one card that like, I think it's necessary. I'm looking for something to replace this with. If you have any good ideas, let me know in the comments. It's like a fine card, but it's not excel. It doesn't excel, but it is one that's like, okay, you can sideboard it out. And it's kind of nice to have a card that you'll find just cutting. Similarly, like the 4th copy of Ozolith versus like, there are matchups where if you just stumble a little bit, you're just in so much trouble, and so having like the 4th one there where you can draw duplicates can be rough. Like late game it's fine, but early game it's a nightmare. If you've got lands in play, you can just cycle it. It's like no problem at all. But if you draw the 4th copy, if you have the 4th copy in your hand in like turns 1 and 2, you're in a pretty tough shape. So hey, that's worth bearing in mind. The Drowned's Ruins I think really overperformed. I really love those. Those were really, really good. As far as sideboard cards go, we unfortunately didn't see Shape of Sanctuary against Rakdos despite playing like 5 or 6 games versus them. The tail swipes I think are fine, but could be replaced with something else. It might be that actually for something like Greasefang, which is one of the main matchups where we want to have like some creature removal, you can just play more graveyard hate. Have like the 3rd or 4th, even 3rd and 4th Soul Cauldron on the board alongside some Turmoil Scripts. I think the Halo modes were good. We didn't come up against any matchups we were like super on them. Like they're fine versus Black Red because you can Exile Fable, but like it's whatever. Rangers class I think is stellar. Still a big fan of it. Don't want to put it in the main deck just because we are on that artifact theme, but it's just a really, really solid sideboard card. Scales really well, and then you can invest mana into it to get a bunch of value back if you go to late game. The only thing here is that if we're cutting the tail swipes for like other cards, we want to have something versus aggro, whether that be some huge way to gain life, like Shadow Spear, or something like some other kind of fight effect. I've chosen the tail swipe because it's 1 mana, and so it's nice to it's very easy to work in. There's a lot of really good 2 mana fight effects that I think are just a little too expensive, really. But maybe there's something there. Overall, I think the deck's really, really good. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. And if you did, please do like, comment, subscribe, share it around, all that good stuff. And yeah, peace out. Have a great day.